Hi, this is Tim Santoni, and welcome to the Santoni Spotlight. Today we're joined by Nick Beske. Nick, thanks so much for joining the show. We appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Before we get started, maybe give the viewers a little bit of a introduction about yourself, your company, what it is you do, so that we have some context from where you're coming from.
Okay. So PointClick is a digital marketing and web design agency, and we specialize in working with attorneys. Digital marketing is kind of a catch-all phrase. It can have a lot of things under that umbrella. Our strengths are with search engine optimization and Google Ads.
Very good, very good. So what kind of led you to the point of saying, hey, I want to launch PointClick? How did you get to that point of, hey, I want to be in the digital marketing space? Give the viewers a sense of what that looked like for you.
I've always liked doing that kind of stuff. I learned how to write HTML code as a freshman in high school, so I've been doing it for as long as I can remember. Really enjoy working with that kind of stuff, and it started as a hobby that made some money and was able to grow that into a business. Started in 2008.
Wow, great. So, maybe give our viewers a sense of those top 3 things that usually people are doing wrong, or they're calling you saying, hey, and you're like, you don't know you're doing this wrong, but this is a real big problem with your digital footprint, your website, your marketing, tactics.
Top things they're doing wrong. I think the biggest issue that people run into is they're using information that is old. Google changes fast. They're going to Moz or some other website, and they're looking at a forum post that's 2, 3, 5 years old, and they're going, okay, we need to implement this tactic, and it's just not going to work for them. That, or their, what we'll call it, copycat marketing. They'll look at their competitor, and they're like, okay, they're doing this, we need to do exactly that, but they don't. And so that's usually where they fall short.
Gotcha. And so when they're falling short like that, how is it that people are often finding your services? How do they often come upon you? Is it through online? Is it through word of mouth? Like, how do you set yourself apart? Because there's obviously a very saturated market of digital marketers, website developers. How do you separate yourself?
Yeah. So one of the major things for me is that we do specialize in working with attorneys. So I'd say about 90% of our clients are attorneys. And having every new client you get turns into more referrals. So we do get a large amount of business from word of mouth and referrals. But having that sort of specialty niche working with law firms allows us to do a better job with each client. So we're always learning something new with each client that we take on, that we can then take that same information and apply it to the next either marketing campaign or website that we're doing.
Interesting. So as you're obtaining all this knowledge and putting this kind of systematic approach together, what is like the top thing that you're surprised that your clients aren't aware of? Like, they're using outdated strategies, or they're relying on different things, but what are some things that you're like, oh my gosh, like they're totally clueless about this?
Tracking, just keeping track of it all. So a lot of people have heard of Google Analytics. Many of our clients have it, but they never check it. They don't know what's going on. They don't even know how to look at it. Not only Google Analytics, but tracking other stuff too. So if they're doing social media, the reporting on social media. If they're doing Google Ads, the reporting on Google Ads. I think tracking is one of the most important things you can do. So we tie it all together in our reporting software. The number of visits they're getting, the number of calls they're getting, so we track the calls, form submissions, a lot of conversion optimization stuff. So the biggest thing that's missing oftentimes is knowing whether or not what you're doing is even working, and being able to make smart decisions about, if we're spending money on Google Ads, are we spending money on the right keywords? What's actually making the phone ring? Are we doing SEO? We talk to people and they're always saying things like, well, last month we were getting a bunch of calls, but it seems to slow down this month, and we want to know what's changed. But they haven't really made any change, and they weren't tracking what they were doing in the first place, and so they don't have any data. There's no intelligence there.
Sure. So there's some really good resources out there, and those reports that you put together probably mean something to you. But yeah. So you're putting together this tracking and this information so you guys can make informed decisions. But you, as a digital marketer and a professional, understand that. How do you use those tools to try and explain and carry to, tell them, hey, this is what this means, right? Because there's some interpretation at a high level that needs to be done,
for sure.
Correct?
Yeah, definitely. So I try to educate my clients. Some of our clients are already, as you say, they know just enough to be dangerous. Mm-hmm. So you have to be careful with that kind of stuff, but I want them to understand what we're doing and why we're doing it and how that impacts their campaign, whether it's SEO, Google Ads, or social media. Makes
sense. And do you feel like once that you implement those, the analytics and the reporting, that they feel like, okay, we understand where we're going and what they're doing impacts that?
I think they like it. It's validation. So they want to see the activities that are going on and sort of the proof of that. And I think one of the major reasons that I like to do that, so we'll do a monthly conference call and we'll show them the report and we'll explain it, because you're right. They're like, great. We have clients who are like, I don't need 5 pages. Give me 1 page. I just need the summary of what's going on. So we'll explain to them, here's what we're doing. Here's what we said we were going to do last month. Here's what we did. Here's how that affected your traffic, whatever it is. And based on that, so they're learning, but also it's credibility and trust, because a lot of the times we're working with clients who've worked with somebody else before and they feel like they've been burned, or misled. And so I like the transparency, and so it's all about trust and transparency. And plus, everything that we do currently is just on a month-to-month contract, so they're not locked in. And so me being able to do that is also showing them, hey, look, we're doing the work. We're doing this stuff that you're paying us for. Keep paying us for it. We're going to keep doing a good job.
Sure, makes sense. So maybe tell the viewers an example of a recent success story where you either came in to replace someone that was already involved, or you started fresh, a startup that and give us some key points of things that you did that may be unique to PointClick.
Oh man. Okay, so there's 2 that come to mind that are very recent, taken over from other agencies. Without sounding like you're trashing the other party that you're taking over from, there was just so much. So the bar was very low. We took over 2 accounts recently. One was an attorney who was doing search engine optimization and also doing, he thought, paid ads, but he was paying the agency a lump sum and with no transparency on his ad spend. So he sent me his reports. Here's what we're doing. And I said, hey, you said you're spending about 50% of your budget on ads, but I don't see any of that here. I don't see a cost per acquisition. I don't see a cost per click. I don't see any data, so I'm not able to assess this. Can you get me your login details? Could not get the login details. It took us about 2 months to transition everything over, and it turned out that he had budget allocated for paid ads, but actually had no paid ads going. So there's the transparency that I'm talking about. These are the exact kind of guys. So we were able to take that one over, and just in less than 60 days, we've doubled the guy's website traffic, and we have transparency on our reporting. You think you're paying for ads, and then you have no ads, and we turn the ads on. That's a huge boost to your traffic right there. So that was a quick win. Another one was a different situation. It was more of an SEO problem, and the person that they were working with was doing a poor job on the content. So we have a really good content team. Since most of our clients are attorneys, we have law students and people who are non-practicing. They have law degrees, but they're not practicing attorneys who write the content for us. So higher quality content with a purpose behind that. And then also, link building is a big issue. Getting links back to your website is a big thing for SEO. I'm getting too technical now, but this client had a bunch of just really low quality, low value links, and we were able to identify those and show them how we can start improving it. Yeah,
so all the things that you're doing to help overcome these kind of, again, not to trash the market, but there's a lot of people that are not doing things correctly. The things are constantly changing. We were talking before about the algorithm changing with Google and things like that. So, what keeps you motivated to keep going along when you have really all these forces working against you? You have Google changing their algorithms. You have the AdWords spend, the analytics, the clients that are not trusting, all the other platforms are really doing things to make your job more difficult. So What keeps you motivated to stay up to speed on those things and keep moving along?
So I enjoy the challenge of it. I like, I don't love it when those things change and they negatively affect our clients, because that makes me look bad, right? It's like, what'd you do? You dropped the ball. It's totally out of my hands for the most part.
Right.
But keeping on top of it and educating our clients, letting them know what's going on is key. And then it's sort of like an investment. You need to be diversified. If you're dependent solely on search engine traffic coming from Google organic and they change the algorithm, you can lose it all. So that's why having other things like a long tail content strategy, blog posts that are going to show up that aren't necessarily going to be affected by those major algorithm updates, social media campaigns, paid ads, all these different things you can do. So if one thing is having a problem, you still got a leg to stand on.
Sure. That's great. So before we let you get out of here, we want to ask you a couple of personal questions. So when you're not helping clients navigate the digital marketing space, how do you spend your free time? What do you like to do when you're not, setting up websites and talking to attorneys about how they need to change their marketing plans?
Mostly spending time with the family. I'm married, got 3 kids, identical twin girls who are in 1st grade, so that takes up a big amount of time.
Wow.
Yeah,
they made it to 1st grade.
They made it to first. I made it to their 1st grade, and then we have a huge age gap between our kids too. So we have a daughter who just going into college, just graduated this last year.
Oh wow!
Huge age gap, yeah. So she's a young student too. She's 17, but still a big age gap. So they keep me very busy.
Very good, very good. And from a marketing perspective, what's the best app or technology that you've seen or you've adopted in the last 6 to 12 months?
From a marketing perspective?
Yeah.
So one that I use regularly is called Feedly. And so for me and for other people too, it's important to keep on top of trends that are changing and information. And it's tough to go visit a dozen or more websites. Feedly is just a tool that will give you the headlines of all the different blogs that you follow. So I use that one on a daily basis.
The way to keep up with what's going on in the news and see what...
Exactly. Yeah, it's like a news feed, but it's coming from specific blogs that you choose. And so mine, as you can imagine, are heavily focused on SEO and pay-per-click and the things that change rapidly.
Awesome. Well, Nick, thanks so much for coming on and talking to our viewers. If you want to connect with Nick, we'll leave his information in the show notes below. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments and we'll make sure that we get back to you. Thanks so much for coming on, Nick.
Thanks for having me.
You bet.